But ʻOumuamua does not share this softness. It does not roll into the familiar comfort of a sphere. It stretches instead, elongated like a shard, a sliver of something once whole, its body many times longer than it is wide. It tumbles as it goes, rolling slowly, rhythmically, as if caught in a dance with no partner. A spin begun long ago that will never end. This shape is its first secret. It is not the geometry you expect from a wanderer in space. Some say it resembles a spindle, thin and stretched. Others imagine a disk, broad and flat, its thinness only revealed in its turning. No telescope sees it clearly enough to decide. What you hold instead is the knowledge of strangeness, a form that is not what you thought it would be. Why does this matter? Because shape tells a story. The geometry of a body reveals the forces that shaped it. A round planet tells of gravities, persistence, pulling equally in all directions. A lopsided asteroid speaks of collisions, of fragments left over from ancient breakages. A comet, with pits and ridges, speaks of ices evaporating, reshaping the surface each time it approaches a star. Every curve, every angle, is a history written in silence. So you look at ʻOumuamua's stretched form and wonder, what history is this? How does an object grow so long, so narrow? Did it shatter from a world, broken in some ancient collision, cast away into interstellar night? Did it once rest on the edge of a star system, battered by tidal forces until it cracked apart? Or did it erode slowly, ground down by cosmic dust into a spindle over millions of years of drifting? You cannot be sure. The telescopes show brightness, but not detail. They show flashes of light as it rotates, brighter when its longer side faces the sun, dimmer when its narrow edge is turned. From this, you infer the elongated form. From this, you know it is unlike what you have seen before. And here, science bends into poetry. For what you hold is not certainty, but suggestion. Its shape becomes a metaphor for the universe itself, incomplete, partial, known only in glimpses. You see one side, then another, but never the whole. Knowledge itself feels like this rotation, flashes of light, fragments of truth, never fully still. You linger on the thought of tumbling. In your own life, rotation is gentle. Earth spins steadily, predictably, every 24 hours. The moon turns in rhythm, always showing you the same face. But ʻOumuamua does not spin neatly. It tumbles chaotically, rolling in more than one direction at once, a kind of cosmic wobble that will never settle. Scientists call this non-principal axis rotation, but you do not need the term. You only need the image, a shard turning endlessly, its motion unbalanced, unresolvable, and yet there is beauty in this imbalance. The light curves rise and fall as it spins, like a heartbeat, like breathing. It flashes, then dims, then brightens. Again, reminding you that even in silence, there are rhythms. The cosmos has its own pulse, written in light. You let yourself imagine how it must look up close. Perhaps its sides are scarred, ridged with fractures. Perhaps one end tapers to a point, the other blunted by ancient impacts. Perhaps it is smooth, rubbed down by endless encounters with tiny particles of dust, its sharp edges worn away. You cannot know, and yet the not knowing is gentle, like a veil over something too bright to face directly. Shape is also about identity. To call something a comet or an asteroid is to rely on the familiar. But ʻOumuamua fits neither category. Its elongated body challenges those boundaries. If comets are spheres that grow tails, and asteroids are rocks that remain bare. What then? Is this a new category? A reminder that nature is not constrained by your words. This too is part of the lesson. The universe does not need your definitions. It does not conform to the lines you draw. It moves beyond them, spilling over, creating forms you did not imagine. ʻOumuamua's shape is a quiet refusal to be named too quickly. It is a reminder that discovery is not about fitting the world into your ideas, but reshaping your ideas to fit the world. You reflect on fragments. Shards are what remain when something greater is broken. Glass shatters, rocks split, mountains crumble, and each piece carries the memory of what it once belonged to. ʻOumuamua feels like this, a shard carrying the ghost of its origin. Perhaps it was once part of a comet the size of a mountain, broken apart by the gravity of a star. Perhaps it was part of a planetesimal, a small world that never grew large, ripped to pieces by collisions in its youth. To be a fragment is not to be meaningless. Fragments hold history. Every shard of pottery unearthed by archaeologists tells of the hands that shaped it, the fire that baked it, the life that used it. Every shard of a cosmic traveler tells of forces you cannot see, directly the crash of bodies, the stretch of gravity, the endless erosion of time. ʻOumuamua's elongation may be its fingerprint, its clue, its story, whispered in shape, alone, and there is another possibility. Perhaps its shape is not the result of breaking, but of forming. Some scientists suggest that ether sublimating, turning from solid directly to gas, could carve a body into long, thin forms. Others wonder whether collisions with dust at high speeds could sand it down like a cosmic riverstone, elongated by the stream of interstellar particles. If so, then its shape is not just a remnant of destruction, but a sculpture of journey. Itself, you rest in this thought. That form is the memory of motion. Just as the ocean shapes rocks into smoothness, just as the wind carves dunes into waves, so too the interstellar medium may sculpt bodies across eons. ʻOumuamua's length, its thinness, its spin, all may be records of the path it has traveled, and yet what you see is incomplete. The telescopes catch only flashes. Brightness grows, brightness fades, like blinking. You glimpse only shadows of its form, and from those shadows you infer. The uncertainty itself becomes part of the beauty. Like the outline of a bird glimpsed against twilight, never fully known. You notice how this draws you inward. It is not only about the shape of a distant rock, it is about the shape of knowledge, itself partial, shifting, incomplete. To seek is to accept that you will always see only fragments, only glimpses, yet still, those glimpses are enough to carry you into wonder. And so you drift, holding in your mind an object that is real, measurable, and yet mysterious. Its body turns without end. Its light flickers and fades. Its form remains unsettled. And you are reminded that mystery does not mean emptiness. Mystery means presence. Something is there, just beyond reach, waiting for you to soften into. Its silence. ʻOumuamua's shape is a secret that may never be told fully, not in your lifetime, not even in centuries. For it is gone now, tumbling away, carrying its strange geometry back into the dark. What remains is only the memory of its flashes, the data points, the curves of light. From these, you build stories. From these, you imagine, and imagination itself becomes part of the science. For to picture its shape is not only to know what it looks like, but to wonder why. To see beyond the surface into the invisible forces that molded it. to understand that every form in the universe, no matter how strange, is the result of history, of pressure, of motion, of time. You close your thoughts with one more reflection. That shape is not still. Even a shard turns. Even a shard moves. Geometry is not fixed, but living, evolving with every collision, every drift, every encounter with light and shadow. ʻOumuamua is not just a shape, it is a process. A shape in motion, a secret unfolding, never finished. Light does not only illuminate, it reveals. It touches surfaces gently and then withdraws, carrying with it secrets of what it has touched. When you think of light, you often think of vision, of the way it lets you see. But light is also a storyteller. It traces over shapes and movements, reflecting patterns you cannot otherwise hold. And when light meets ʻOumuamua, it does not stay silent. It flickers, it fades, it brightens again. Its brightness is not constant but fluctuates, like a slow and irregular breath. Each shift is a clue, each change a whisper of form and spin. You do not see the object directly. You see only its dialogue with sunlight, its turning body translating motion into light, has a cosmic counterpart that creates galaxies, stars, and life. Dust is not waste, it is foundation. And ʻOumuamua, moving silently, is a witness to this. Its body coated in interstellar dust is like a traveler clothed in the fabric of its journey. You cannot see the details, but you know they are there. Layers upon layers, telling of collisions, of ejections, of quiet drifting through invisible seas. You imagine the colors of that dust. Some grains rich in carbon, black as soot. Others glittering with silicates, like ground glass. Some carrying icy water, frozen solid for billions of years. Together they form a mosaic of matter, pressed against the traveler's surface until it becomes a living record of the galaxy's story. Scientists sometimes call this space weathering, the slow alteration of surfaces by dust, radiation, and time. But you do not need the term. You only need the image of a shard darkened, reddened, polished by eons of drifting. A shard that wears its journey visibly, though from Earth you can only glimpse the faint changes in its brightness. This thought draws you deeper. For it is not only ʻOumuamua's surface that matters, but what it tells you about the vast, unseen background. If its body is coated in the dust of other suns, then the space between stars is not empty. It is filled, quietly, invisibly, with matter too fine to see but too numerous to ignore. Space, then, is not void. It is ocean, and like an ocean, it carries ships. ʻOumuamua is one such vessel, drifting not by will but by physics, wearing on its hull the salt and spray of a sea that spans the galaxy. You cannot ride that sea yourself, not yet. But by watching the traveler, you glimpse its presence. You know you live not in emptiness, but in connection. You think of how fragile dust seems, and yet how powerful it is. A single grain striking Earth's atmosphere at high speed becomes a streak of light, a meteor burning for your eyes. A cloud of dust drifting near a star creates nebulae that glow with beauty. Dust, multiplied across light years, reshapes galaxies, absorbing starlight, scattering it, softening the glow of distant suns. Fragile, yes, but also transformative. And so, when you picture ʻOumuamua coated in dust, you picture not just scars, but transformations, a body that is no longer what it was at birth, but what it became after ages of wandering. Dust is both painter and archivist. It changes surfaces even as it records their histories. Perhaps you think you are not so different. Your own skin carries the marks of time, the dust of years. Your memories are layered, scarred, reshaped by countless small encounters. Just as interstellar dust writes itself into the bodies of rocks, so too do experiences write themselves into you. Neither you nor ʻOumuamua remain untouched. Both of you are travelers, carrying surfaces that tell stories. As sleep draws near, you rest in this parallel. Dust is not something to be dismissed. Dust is memory. Dust is history. Dust is possibility. ʻOumuamua is one page in the great book of interstellar dust, a book that is still being written across the stars. And yet, even here, questions remain. What exactly coats its body? Is it smooth or rough, dark or shining? What kinds of elements ride upon it? What histories are etched into its skin that you cannot yet read? You are left with wonder, soft and unresolved, knowing that every grain of dust is a universe in miniature. Every scratch a sentence from a forgotten star. Loneliness is often an illusion. Even in spaces that seem empty, presence lingers. A quiet room carries echoes of voices. A bare sky still holds the breath of winds. And in the vastness of the cosmos, where one visitor passes quickly, you cannot help but wonder if there are others hidden, faint, following paths just beyond your sight. ʻOumuamua appeared as a solitary traveler. It crossed your awareness without warning, and just as suddenly it was gone. A lone shard, tumbling, whispering its mystery. But you are left with the question, what if it was not alone? What if, behind it, unseen, moved another fragment, smaller or dimmer, trailing the same story in silence? Companionship in the universe does not always mean closeness. Stars themselves come in pairs, or in families of three, bound together by gravity yet separated by vast gulfs of space. Comets often travel with fragments, pieces broken away that drift behind like echoes of the whole. Even meteors enter Earth's skies, not singly, but in showers, remnants of comets that shed streams of dust across their orbits. The universe, again and again, prefers the plural. And so the thought unfolds. Perhaps ʻOumuamua was part of a family. Perhaps long ago, an ancient body shattered, torn apart by the pull of a star, broken in collision with another wandering fragment, or split by forces beyond imagining. Its pieces would scatter like sparks, each one flung into the interstellar night, some larger, some smaller, each carrying the same origin, each beginning its own journey outward. If that is true, then ʻOumuamua is not an isolated messenger, but only one voice in a chorus, too faint for you to hear. Perhaps its siblings still travel, spread across light years, passing unnoticed through other skies, seen by other civilizations, or perhaps seen by none at all. You pause on this possibility, and it softens you. For solitude can feel sharp, but the idea of companions brings comfort. Even fragments in the cold, infinite dark may share unseen bonds. Their paths diverge, but their beginnings are the same. They are families scattered across the stars. Scientists have wondered this too. Could ʻOumuamua have been followed by another? Could its strange trajectory have hinted at fragments trailing behind? Observations revealed none. No visible companion. No faint trace. And yet, the possibility cannot be fully dismissed. The sky is vast, and faintness hides much. You realize this is not only about astronomy, but about perspective. For every visitor you see, countless others may pass unseen, to dim, to distant, to swift. Your instruments are powerful, yet the cosmos is greater. Companionship may exist in ways you cannot yet detect. The absence of evidence is not the absence of presence, and so you reflect. The universe may be filled, not with solitary wanderers, but with families of fragments, echoes of worlds undone, seeds cast outward in every direction. What feels rare to you may be abundant beyond your vision. What feels lonely may, in truth, be crowded with silent kin. This thought brings you to comets, the familiar wanderers of your own system. They often break apart, splitting into pieces that travel together for a while, then drift apart. When they near the sun, their heat weakens their cohesion, and small companions peel away. Sometimes these fragments are seen. Sometimes they vanish into invisibility, only their debris showing as meteor showers centuries later. If your comets do this, why not those from other stars? Why not ʻOumuamua? It could be a shard of something larger, a remnant of a family broken. In an ancient moment, its silence is not proof of solitude. It may simply be the most visible piece of a much greater scattering. You let yourself rest in this imagery, countless shards moving outward from a point of origin, each one a messenger, each one a reminder of the system that gave birth to it. Like seeds blown from a dandelion head, they drift on unseen currents, carried far, carried wide, some never to land, some to touch new places, all sharing the same beginning. And then you wonder, what would it mean to discover not one, but many? What would it mean if, after ʻOumuamua, another fragment appeared, and then another, each one bearing marks of interstellar origin? It would no longer be chance. It would no longer be anomaly. It would be pattern, proof that such visitors are common, that the galaxy is alive with them. This is not an idle thought. Already you have seen another. 2 Borisov, a comet from beyond, discovered in 2019, its tail shining clear. Unlike ʻOumuamua, Borisov looked familiar, more like the comets of your own sun. And yet its path was unbound, its speed interstellar, its presence was confirmation. ʻOumuamua was not alone. The universe had more to send. The question of companions, then, is answered partly and partly not. Yes, there are others, but are they connected? Are they siblings, fragments of a shared origin, or simply separate wanderers, each cast from a different star? Are they family or strangers who happen to pass by? You notice how this becomes a kind of rhythm. Bright, dim, bright again. The pattern repeats, but not perfectly. It is as though the object is tumbling in more than one direction, wobbling as it goes, creating irregular pulses. The universe is playing with shadow, and you are left listening to its beat. This rhythm is its heartbeat. For a planet, rotation is smooth and steady. Day follows night with precision. But for this interstellar visitor, the pulse is uneven, tumbling like a body caught off balance, yet still turning with persistence. And in these irregular flashes, you sense history. Something once disturbed it, tilted it, sent it spinning in a way that never settled. Motion in space is memory. There is no air to slow it, no friction to still it. Once set in motion, an object continues forever, unless another force interrupts. This tumbling, then, is not temporary. It is the echo of something long past, perhaps a collision, perhaps a pull from a star or planet it once passed. The event is gone, but the motion remains, carrying the memory of disturbance across the light years. You realize you are not watching randomness. You are watching a message in disguise. Its spin, its wobble, its flickering brightness, these are records of its journey. Like the rings of a tree hold stories of seasons, like the lines on a stone reveal the erosion of water, its motion is a text written without words. Sunlight is the ink, darkness is the page, and as it tumbles, the story unfolds in flashes. There is beauty in how indirect this is. You never see it fully. You do not trace every contour of its surface. You watch instead the play of light and shadow and infer what lies beneath. Knowledge arrives not as direct sight, but as interpretation, as reading between glimmers. This, too, is a lesson. Much of the universe is known this way, not through direct contact, but through patterns of light. The wobble of a star reveals the presence of a hidden planet. The dimming of starlight shows a world passing in front. The redshift of spectral lines tells you of motion away. Everywhere, light is messenger, carrying secrets silently across space. ʻOumuamua is no exception. You reflect on how faint that light is. By the time it reaches Earth, it is weakened, stretched, almost lost. The object itself is small, perhaps 100 meters wide, hardly more, and yet from such distance, you still read its spin. You still catch its rhythm. The faintest flicker is enough to whisper a truth. The dimming is not only about shape, it is about surface. If it was smooth like polished stone, the brightness would fall evenly. But if it is rough, fractured, or coated in reflective patches, the flickers become more complex. Each glint may mark a smoother region, each fade a darker scar. The tumbling becomes not only a record of rotation, but also of texture. You are reading not just movement, but material. It is humbling to think how much can be learned from so little. A faint point of light, shifting in brightness by small degrees, becomes an entire story of shape, surface, and spin. This is how science often works, not in grand revelations, but in patient listening to whispers, in careful noticing of faint signals. And as you let this settle, you sense the poetry. The object itself says nothing. It carries no language, no intent. Yet by turning, by letting light fall and rise, it gives you enough to wonder. It becomes a teacher of stillness, reminding you that motion is never meaningless, that every wobble is a clue. Light and shadow are not opposites. They are partners. One defines the other. One shapes the rhythm of perception. Without shadow, light is flat. Without light, shadow is empty. Together they create the contrast that lets you see. ʻOumuamua's flickers are the partnership of these two forces, written across a shard drifting through space. You think, too, of your own rhythms. Your body has pulses, the rise and fall of breath, the beating of the heart, the cycles of waking and rest. They are reminders that you are never truly still. Even in silence, there is motion. Even in sleep, your body turns through its rhythms. You and ʻOumuamua are not so different. Both carry your histories in patterns of movement. Both reveal stories through rhythm. And so, as you listen to the flicker of brightness, you are listening also to yourself. You are reminded that you too are a body in motion, reflecting light, casting shadow, carrying memory in every heartbeat. There is something profound in thinking of motion as language. It is not words, not sound, but it is still communication. The spin of galaxies, the orbit of planets, the vibration of atoms, each is an expression. Motion is how the universe tells its story, endlessly, patiently. In patterns you can learn to read. ʻOumuamua's motion is not smooth. It wobbles, it tumbles. But perhaps this is not imperfection. Perhaps it is simply another kind of rhythm, one less regular, one more mysterious, yet still belonging to the universal chorus. You let yourself drift into that thought, that the universe is an orchestra of motions, each body a note, each spin a tone, each orbit a phrase. ʻOumuamua is just one instrument in the great composition. Its flickering light is its solo, brief but beautiful, before fading into silence again. This thought brings a calm humility. You do not need to see every detail. You do not need certainty. It is enough to feel the rhythm, to watch the shadows rise and fall, to know that motion itself is meaning. And so, you rest in this awareness. Light, shadow, motion, three simple elements, and yet from them emerges the story of a traveler from beyond. As it continues to drift outward, the flickering grows fainter. The rhythm weakens, lost in distance. Eventually, even the most powerful telescopes can no longer hear its heartbeat. And yet, the memory remains. You carry it now, the knowledge that motion itself can speak, that silence itself can be patterned. With rhythm, you are left in quiet reflection. If light reveals so much from so far away, how many other secrets are flickering unnoticed, their rhythms just beyond your perception? How many stories are hidden in the language of motion, waiting for you to learn how to listen? There is a force you cannot see, and yet you feel its presence in every part of your life. It is not loud, not sharp, not insistent. It is quiet, constant, and universal. Gravity is always there, holding you against the earth, keeping oceans wrapped around your world, binding the moon in its steady path, pulling planets endlessly in their orbits around the sun. You do not hear it. You do not touch it. And yet, without it, nothing of your world would hold together. Gravity is the soft thread stitching the universe into coherence, the silent fabric on which stars and worlds are embroidered. When you think of gravity, you may think of weight, the gentle tug you feel as you lie down, the pressure that assures you the ground will not drift away. But gravity is more than weight. It is the shaping of motion itself. Every orbit, every arc, every fall is a response to this invisible pull. And so, when ʻOumuamua entered the solar system, gravity was the first to greet it. The sun, vast and central, reached out with its unseen hand, just as it pulls comets into long, looping journeys. Just as it bends planets into endless circles, it tugged at the visitor. You would expect that pull to bend its path into a predictable curve, but what you saw was more complex. Yes, ʻOumuamua was bent by the sun's attraction. Its trajectory curved as it approached, dipping inward, then arcing outward again, slingshotting back into the deep. This is what gravity does. It reshapes motion, drawing straight lines into graceful curves. Without gravity, paths would never bend. With it, even the smallest stone follows a dance choreographed by invisible hands. You linger on this thought that nothing in the universe truly moves alone. Even the most distant star is linked, however faintly, to every other by gravity's web. It is the quiet glue of existence, carried by larger currents, by the turning of Earth, by the orbit of your planet, by the slow spin of the galaxy. Even as you rest, you are drifting through space, your body moving with worlds and stars. Cosmic drift is not foreign to you. It is your reality, whether or not you notice. The immensity of time means that what you see now is rare. To catch ʻOumuamua is like catching a snowflake in a storm that has been falling for eons. Most flakes vanish unseen. Most travelers slip past without observation. But here, briefly, you witnessed one, a fragment in the endless drift. You cannot follow it, you cannot hold it. You can only recognize it and let it go. This too is a lesson about time. Not everything can be studied in detail. Not everything can be understood fully. Some truths are glimpses, caught only once before they vanish forever. Cosmic time reminds you to accept incompleteness, to find meaning in the fleeting moments. You are given. The more you reflect, the more you realize that cosmic time is also circular. Stars are born, they live, they die. Their matter returns to space, feeding new stars, new planets, new travelers. ʻOumuamua may once have been part of a young system broken away during its chaos, only to wander until it became part of your awareness. It is both ancient and present, both distant and immediate. In cosmic time, beginnings and endings blur, feeding one another endlessly. You let this soften you. Your own life, brief as it is still part of this larger cycle. The atoms in your body were formed in stars billions of years ago. The oxygen you breathe was shaped in processes that long preceded you. You are not separate from cosmic time. You are an expression of it, condensed into a moment of awareness. Gentle drift also reminds you of patience. In your life, you may hurry, you may rush, you may feel urgency, but in the grand scale, everything unfolds slowly. Stars are patient, galaxies are patient, wanderers like ʻOumuamua are patient. Their time is not yours, yet their example can guide you. In drifting, there is no rush, yet great distance is crossed. In patience, there is progress without strain. You close your eyes and imagine what ʻOumuamua has seen in its long journey. It may have passed through dark stretches where no light reached it for centuries. It may have glided past the faint glow of distant stars, across clouds of dust, through regions of emptiness so deep they defy description. It may have drifted unseen past other systems, each one unaware of its passing, and then, briefly, it crossed yours, reminding you of the immensity in which you live. Cosmic time does not measure in moments of encounter. It measures in ages, in epochs, in the steady unfolding of change. The visitor's brief passage through your sky is small in its own journey, but large in your awareness. For you, it is extraordinary. For the universe, it is ordinary. Both truths exist together, layered in perspective, and perhaps that is what makes it beautiful, that in all the vastness you are able to notice, that in all the immensity you are able to find meaning, that a snowflake drifting through a storm can be recognized, even if only once, even if only briefly. As you let this thought sink into you, you feel the rhythm of cosmic time surrounding you. Your breath slows, your body rests. You recognize that you, too, are drifting, carried by currents larger than yourself. You cannot control the immensity of time, but you can rest within it as part of its flow. The silence between stars, the patience of drift, the endurance of ages, these truths are not distant from you. They are within you. Your body is built from atoms shaped by cosmic time. Your existence is one moment in the long unfolding. You belong to it, and so you let yourself drift gently into rest. Cosmic time carries you whether or not you notice. Its immensity humbles you, but it also soothes you. You do not need to hold it all. You only need to let it hold you. Every traveler carries a story, even if it never speaks. And when you look at interstellar wanderers like ʻOumuamua and 3i Atlas, you cannot help but wonder where that story begins. To ask about their presence is to ask about their origins, the moments, long ago, when forces set them adrift across the galaxy. The question of beginnings is delicate. Your own beginnings are close. A childhood, a first memory, a family, a world. But for these visitors, origins are not simple. Their birthplaces may lie light years away, in regions you will never reach. They may have been shaped during the earliest years of another solar system, when dust and gas swirled thickly, when stars and planets were still struggling to find form. You let your thoughts drift back to that kind of time. A star begins as a cloud, cold, dark, and scattered across space. Slowly, it gathers, pulled together by gravity, squeezed until it glows. Around it, leftover matter swirls, forming a disk. Within that disk, small clumps grow, colliding, merging, breaking apart. Worlds begin as dust, then stones, then mountains, until some become planets, some moons, some comets, some asteroids, and some, never claimed, are flung outward, ejected, into the endless dark. Perhaps that is where ʻOumuamua was born. Not on a planet, not in the safety of an orbit, but in the chaos of beginnings, caught in a collision, pulled by a larger body, then hurled away. A single fragment of possibility, set loose from its birthplace, destined to wander. If so, then it carries within it the echoes of that system's creation, a silent memory of the moment when order and chaos fought to shape a world. You imagine the violence. Planets do not form gently. They strike one another. They shatter. They steal and scatter material. Their gravity flings smaller bodies into exile. Each traveler, like ʻOumuamua, may be a remnant of those ancient battles, broken shards of worlds that might have been. When you observe them now, you are not just seeing fragments of rock or ice. You are seeing pieces of cosmic history, survivors, of collisions that happened billions of years ago, before your own sun was born. But not all origins are violent. Some may be quiet. A body may simply wander too far from its star, nudged again and again by larger planets, until eventually it escapes completely. Like a child who drifts away from home, it crosses a boundary from belonging to wandering, from orbit to exile. Once set free, it cannot return. Its new home is the galaxy itself. You reflect on how different this is from your own sense of belonging. You are rooted to your world. Gravity ties you to Earth. Atmosphere protects you. But these travelers have no such anchor. Their only belonging is to motion, to freedom, to the paths set by forces larger than themselves. They are orphans of creation, and yet, in their exile, they continue to carry the memory of where they began. ʻOumuamua and 3i Atlas remind you of the creativity of the cosmos. Every solar system is an experiment in building worlds. Some succeed in forming stable planets. Others scatter material endlessly. For every Earth, there may be countless fragments that never found a home. Interstellar travelers may be those forgotten fragments, carrying with them the record of what was possible but never realized. You wonder how many have passed unnoticed. Your instruments caught these too, but space is vast, and your watch is recent. For billions of years, fragments may have passed silently, never seen, never known. Each one an echo of another star's beginning. Each one a messenger carrying stories of creation that you cannot hear. The idea humbles you. It is as if the galaxy is filled with scattered letters, written in stone and ice, drifting endlessly unread. To find even one is rare. To find two is extraordinary. To imagine how many are still drifting, too faint, too far, too quiet, is overwhelming, and yet there is beauty in knowing they are there. Even if you never see them, the knowledge that countless fragments are wandering connects you to the creativity of the cosmos. Every system builds and scatters. Every beginning leaves behind echoes. The universe does not waste. It transforms, it releases, it carries forward. You think of echoes themselves. An echo is not the original sound, but it reminds you of it. It carries the shape of what was spoken, though softer, though delayed. In the same way, interstellar travelers are echoes of origins. They are not the planets or stars themselves, but they carry the imprint of those formations, their shapes, their motions. Their surfaces are softened reflections of events that happened long ago. Even the silence they carry is telling. ʻOumuamua left no bright tail like a comet, no steady reflection like a planet. It was quiet, faint, easy to miss. But in that silence lies a story. It may have lost its ices during its long. You are reminded of ships at sea. Two may cross the same ocean without ever having left the same shore. Their meeting is not evidence of kinship, but of shared conditions, winds, currents, tides. So too in the galaxy. ʻOumuamua and Borisov may both drift your way not because they are related, but because the galaxy is full of such travelers. Companionship may be family, or it may simply be multitude, and yet the thought of family is powerful. It connects you to the universal truth of breaking and scattering, of origins shared and paths diverged. It reminds you that even in separation, there is kinship. Every atom in your body was once part of a star. Every element has companions scattered across the universe. You are never fully alone. Neither is ʻOumuamua. Close your eyes and let this reflection deepen. You picture invisible companions, fragments too faint to see, trailing behind ore, racing ahead, moving silently but always present. You imagine their surfaces scarred like ʻOumuamua's, their shapes strange, their motions unique, each one a messenger, each one carrying silence and memory. This thought is soothing. For even if you cannot see them, even if you cannot prove their presence, you know the universe favors plurality. Stars form in clusters, galaxies gather in groups, even dust grains collect in clouds. Solitude is rare. Connection is the rule. ʻOumuamua. Question of companions becomes your own question. What other travelers pass unseen? What other fragments share its story? Are they nearby or already far beyond, crossing into new domains? Are they endless in number or rare treasures scattered thinly across the dark? You drift with these uncertainties, allowing them to soften into wonder. The truth may not yet be known. The truth may remain hidden for centuries, but the question itself is enough. The possibility itself is comfort. For to ask whether ʻOumuamua has companions is also to ask whether you have them, whether the universe surrounds you with unseen kin, whether your own journey is part of a greater family. The answer, whispered in the very fabric of existence, is yes. And so you let yourself rest in that answer, even as the details remain unknown. ʻOumuamua may be one, or it may be many. It may be solitary, or it may be chorus. But either way, it is part of something larger. So are you. Sometimes one event feels like chance. It arrives unexpectedly, and you tell yourself it is rare, a solitary spark, unlikely to happen again soon. But when a second event follows, the meaning shifts. The second occurrence confirms the first, turning coincidence into pattern, turning anomaly into reality. ʻOumuamua was the first. It startled you, not with its brightness, but with its strangeness, its unbound path, its whisper of elsewhere. For a moment, you could almost believe it was unique, a once-in-a-lifetime visitor that happened to cross your gaze. But then, not. Long after came another, 3I Atlas. Its name sounds technical, but beneath the cataloging lies something profound. The eye marks it as interstellar, the third of its kind ever identified. The atlas honors the survey that revealed it, a patient sweep of the sky that noticed its path. And with that name, the story of one visitor becomes the story of many. The universe is no longer hinting. It is speaking. The arrival of 3I Atlas is a quiet revelation. Your solar system is not sealed, not protected by infinite distance. It is open, porous, visited by travelers from other suns. ʻOumuamua was the messenger. Borisov called to I was the second. And now 3I. Atlas adds its voice, showing you that such crossings are not impossibilities, but inevitabilities. You let that truth settle into you. The galaxy is alive with motion. Stars form and fade. Planets grow and collide. Comets are flung. Outward debris scatters. Fragments drift for ages. Some of those fragments eventually pass near your sun. They are not aimed, not chosen, not deliberate. They simply move along paths carved by chance and gravity until, by probability alone, they intersect with your gaze. Still, the effect is profound. 2 might be coincidence. 3 becomes pattern. With each discovery, the horizon of expectation widens. You begin to understand that your solar system may be crossed by countless such travelers over the span of its life. Most unseen, some briefly caught, a few recorded in memory. And 3I Atlas reminds you that diversity exists, even in strangeness. Where ʻOumuamua was elongated, silent, and tailless, and Borisov displayed a long, comet-like plume, Atlas carried its own story. Each traveler is different, shaped by its origin, by its star, by its history of collisions and drift. Just as no 2 grains of sand are identical, no 2 interstellar visitors are the same. Their uniqueness is their message. The galaxy is vast, and within its variety lies endless possibility. You reflect on how these discoveries change your sense of privacy. For so long, you thought of your solar system as home, an island of planets, circling one star, self-contained, separated from others by gulfs too wide to cross. But the arrival of not 1, not 2, but 3 interstellar travelers reminds you that no system is isolated. Fragments wander, paths intersect, the doors are open, even if they open rarely. There is both wonder and unease in this. Wonder, because it means connection. The same way seeds carried by winds can land in foreign fields, so too can fragments of other stars pass through your space, carrying with them dust, chemistry, and the echoes of distant worlds. Unease, because it means vulnerability. Your system is not untouched. Visitors can arrive without warning, without control, passing silently through your skies before vanishing again. But perhaps the unease is softened when you remember the scale of it all. These visitors are small, far smaller than planets, far smaller even than moons. They do not threaten so much as remind. They are like notes slipped under a door, subtle, quiet, easily overlooked, but meaningful if you pause to read them. The arrival of 3I80LAS also reminds you of the importance of attention. Without the patient scanning of telescopes, without surveys that sweep the sky night after night, it would have gone unnoticed, just another faint streak in the dark. Attention is what transforms accident into meaning. By watching carefully, you turn chance into discovery. You let this thought linger, that the universe is always offering signals, but you must choose to look. Without looking, the sky is silent. With looking, it becomes full of whispers. Each interstellar visitor is a story not just of itself, but of a larger process. They are evidence that planetary systems, like your own, are dynamic, restless. Planets form, migrate, collide. Small bodies are cast outward, freed from their stars, doomed to drift for eternity. Every system becomes a source of wanderers. Every star contributes to the population of fragments crossing the galaxy. And every so often, one of those fragments enters your sight. In this way, 3I80LAS is not an isolated occurrence. It is a thread in a much larger fabric. To see it is to be reminded that your sun is one of billions, that your system is one of countless others, all producing wanderers, all connected by the flow of fragments through interstellar space. The name itself, ATLAS, carries resonance. In myth, Atlas held up the heavens. In science, Atlas is the name of the survey that held up its gaze, lifting the weight of the sky to reveal hidden travelers. There is poetry in that coincidence, a reminder that human stories and cosmic truths sometimes echo one another. You reflect on the humility these visitors bring. You did not invite them. You did not prepare for them. They came on their own terms, indifferent to whether you noticed. And yet, in noticing, you are changed. Your understanding grows larger. Your sense of connection deepens. Perhaps this is the quiet gift of 3I80LAS. Confirmation. ʻOumuamua was not alone. Borisov was not anomaly. Now Atlas adds certainty. The galaxy shares itself. The barriers are not absolute. The void between stars is not empty but alive with motion. You close your eyes and think of it drifting still. On its way out again, its visit brief but meaningful. You will not see it return. Like the others, it will fade into distance, its path carrying it into regions where no telescope can follow. But the impression remains, not in the object itself, but in what it revealed. And you realize, this is often the way of knowledge. Encounters are brief, evidence is partial, but the meaning endures. A single observation can expand the boundaries of thought. A single visitor can shift the horizon of what you believe is possible. Daily life, you create patterns, labels, and divisions, so that the vastness of the world becomes manageable. Categories become comfort, boundaries become guides, but nature, quietly and patiently, resists your neatness. For a long time, comets and asteroids seemed enough. To families of small bodies, circling your sun in silence. Asteroids, dry, rocky, the rubble left behind after planets formed, orbiting in belts and clusters. Comets, icy, fragile, their surfaces glowing with vapor and dust when they wander close to sunlight, their tails stretching like whispers across the sky. Two types, two boxes, stone and ice, silent rock and glowing wanderer. It seemed enough to explain what circled your star. But then, ʻOumuamua arrived. Its shape was strange, its path unbound, and its surface gave no cometary tail. Yet it did not behave like an asteroid either, moving in ways you could not fully explain by gravity alone. Later came Borisov, whose glowing plume resembled a comet, yet whose origin was unambiguously interstellar, and now others, like 3I ATLAS, blur the line even further. You begin to realize the universe does not honor your definitions. It does not ask whether a body is comet or asteroid. It does not sort itself into categories. It simply exists in forms, shaped by time, by collisions, by heat, by distance, by chance, and so. Your boxes begin to feel too small. You reflect on the difference between asteroid and comet. Asteroids, made mostly of rock and metal, are thought to be fragments from the inner parts of solar systems, born in the heat where ices cannot survive. They orbit steadily, their surfaces hardened, barren. Comets, in contrast, are icy wanderers from the cold outer regions, carrying frozen gases, carbon compounds, and dust. When warmed by a star, they release their ices, creating a halo of vapor and long luminous tails. But what of the in-betweens? What of bodies that are partly rocky, partly icy, or that once were icy but now are dry? What of asteroids that sprout faint comas under the right conditions, or comets that grow dark and quiet after losing their volatiles? Already, your own solar system contains hybrids, active asteroids, extinct comets, objects that blur the line, refusing to belong fully to either category. The truth is that every object carries a continuum of possibility. An asteroid is not always purely rock. A comet is not always purely ice. They exist on a spectrum, a sliding scale shaped by origin, history, and transformation. And interstellar visitors, with their long journeys and unknown beginnings, only deepen this. Complexity, ʻOumuamua, was silent, no visible tail. But its path suggested a faint push, perhaps from outgassing too subtle to see. If so, then it was comet-like, though hidden. Borisov, by contrast, was undeniably cometary, its icy body shining as it approached the sun, but it too was different. Richer in certain elements than most comets of your own system, hinting at chemical recipes born under another star. And 3I Atlas, faint and fragile, carried yet another mixture of traits. You rest in this lesson. Nature does not divide cleanly. Boundaries are conveniences of thought, not truths of existence. The universe is full of in-betweens. This is not only true of comets and asteroids. It is true of stars and planets, of galaxies and dust. It is true of life itself. Categories blur because reality is continuous, flowing, unbounded. Every definition you make is a lens, helpful but incomplete. The cosmos invites you to use them lightly, to let them guide without letting them confine. You find comfort in the idea that strangeness is not exception, but essence. ʻOumuamua and Borisov were not errors in classification. They were reminders. That classification itself is flexible, that categories serve you, not the other way around. The universe is not bound to your words. It is bound only to itself. You let yourself imagine the diversity of small bodies in the galaxy, some dry and rocky, some icy and luminous, some fractured, some pristine. Some may carry chemistry rich, inorganics dark as soot. Others may glitter with crystalline ices, pure and clear. Some may look like comets, but behave like asteroids. Others may look like asteroids, but whisper with hidden tales when warned. The possibilities are as endless as the stars themselves, and in this endlessness, you sense a kind of freedom. You do not need to know every category. You do not need to confine every form. You only need to observe, to notice, to accept that strangeness is not failure, but truth. You reflect on how this applies beyond astronomy. Your own life, too, resists categories. You are not only one thing. You change, you blur, you carry contradictions. You can be strong and fragile, certain and uncertain, bound and free. To live is to dwell in the in-between. To live is to move beyond neat labels into the fluid reality of being. So when you think of comets and asteroids, you think also of yourself. You think of the ways you are shaped by origin and history, by collisions and transformations. You think of how you do not always fit the names given to you, and how that is not failure, but richness. The universe is full of forms that resist definition. You are one of them. As sleep draws near, you find comfort in the creativity of the cosmos. It builds not by rules of neat separation, but by layering, blending, blurring. ʻOumuamua and 3i atlas are not errors in the system. They are part of its poetry, a poetry that moves beyond categories into infinite variety. You linger with one final thought. Perhaps the in-betweens are not rare exceptions, but the rule. Perhaps neat categories are the illusions, and reality is far more fluid than you imagine. Perhaps every fragment, every traveler, every star is unique, carrying traits that no box can fully contain. Time stretches differently in the cosmos. What feels long to you, a lifetime, a century, 1,000 years, is only a flicker when compared with the rhythms of stars. The universe counts in scales so vast that even millions of years pass like moments, like single breaths taken across eternity. You live in human time, marked by days and seasons, by heartbeats and memories. Yet above you, cosmic time flows with patience, unhurried and unbroken. A star may burn for billions of years. A galaxy may turn slowly, completing one rotation only after hundreds of millions. And in that same rhythm, fragments of rock and ice, travelers like ʻOumuamua, drift for spans of time longer than human history itself. You reflect on this contrast. Your own life is brief, full of urgency, shaped by calendars and clocks. But interstellar travelers are in no rush. They glide silently across the galaxy, their journeys unfolding over millions or billions of years. No destination, no haste, only endless drift. ʻOumuamua may have begun its journey before Earth was formed. It may have been cast outward from another star system during the birth of planets, flung away by the pull of a giant world or the chaos of collisions. Since then, it may have traveled across the void for hundreds of millions of years, unseen, untouched, until by chance it passed near your sun. To you, it was a fleeting event. To itself, it was only one moment in an ancient wandering. This thought brings humility. You measure time by your own heartbeat, by the cycles of sleep and wake, by the passing of generations. But cosmic time stretches beyond you. It is so vast that your entire history, all of human existence, is only a blink compared with the age of a single star. And yet, within that blink, you are able to notice, to wonder, to record. That noticing is its own miracle. Cosmic time is gentle. It does not hurry to show its changes. Stars grow slowly, galaxies evolve gradually, travelers drift without urgency. And yet, over long spans, even the smallest forces accumulate. Dust reshapes surfaces. Radiation alters chemistry. Gravitational nudges bend paths. What seems still is always becoming, always moving, always transformed by the long patience of time. You linger on the thought of drifting. ʻOumuamua did not fly purposefully. It did not aim. It simply moved, carried by the momentum of its origin, following paths shaped by gravity. Drifting is motion without urgency, without intention, and yet it covers unimaginable distances. In drifting, there is persistence. In drifting, there is inevitability. Perhaps you, too, are drifting. Your life may feel directed by choice and urgency, but beneath those choices, you are. Journey, stripped away until nothing remained to sublimate. Or it may have been formed without them. Either way, its silence is part of its memory. It is what time has done to it. You rest on the thought that origins do not vanish, they only transform. The matter in these travelers has existed since the beginning of the galaxy. It was present in the first clouds of hydrogen and helium. It was shaped in the explosions of ancient stars. It gathered into new forms, was scattered, and now drifts. Again, origins are never gone. They are always carried forward in echoes, in fragments, in the persistence of matter itself. Perhaps the reason you find these echoes so moving is that they mirror your own search for beginnings. You, too, wonder where you come from, not only your family or your planet, but your atoms, your consciousness, your place in the universe. These questions are not separate from the questions you ask about interstellar visitors. To ask about their origins is to ask about your own. For, in the end, both are bound to the same source, the stars. You breathe slowly, letting this realization settle. When you look at a fragment drifting through the galaxy, you are looking at something ancient, but you are also looking at yourself. You share the same material, the same history. The echoes it carries are echoes you also carry. Both you and the traveler are products of cosmic origins, shaped by the same long story. And so, the question of origins does not end with ʻOumuamua or 3i Atlas. It continues with you, with Earth, with every world and every star. Everything is part of the same unfolding, the same creation that began billions of years ago and continues still. The echoes are everywhere, if you learn how to listen. You imagine future travelers being found, studied, traced. Each one will add to the story, refining your understanding of how systems form, how matter drifts, how stars shape their surroundings. Each one will be another echo, another clue, another whisper from the past. And though you may never see them, all you know they are there, patiently drifting, waiting to cross paths with your awareness. The mystery remains open. Where exactly did ʻOumuamua come from? Which star was its birthplace? What collisions or quiet nudges set it free? You may never know with certainty. The answers may remain faint, just out of reach, but even in uncertainty there is meaning. Mystery itself is part of the echo. You let your thoughts soften into that mystery. You do not need to know every detail. You do not need to hold every answer. It is enough to recognize that you are surrounded by echoes, that every star, every particle, every traveler carries the memory of origins. The universe speaks not in clear declarations, but in whispers. It tells its story slowly, across spans of time so vast that only fragments reach you. And yet those fragments are enough. A shard of rock tumbling through space, a flash of motion across the sky, a second interstellar visitor named and followed. These are enough to remind you that the universe is alive with beginnings. Enough to remind you that even in exile, even in drift, there is memory. You close your eyes, and the echoes grow quiet, like fading ripples on water. But you know they are still there, still traveling, still carrying their stories through the dark. You do not need to chase them. You only need to listen, gently, to what they leave behind. Silence is never truly empty. When you listen deeply, you discover that even quiet carries texture. There is the softness of breath, the hum beneath stillness, the faint reminder that absence is never nothing. In the universe, silence is vast and endless, yet even there, traces linger. Astronomers spend their lives listening to this silence. Their instruments stretch outward, gathering whispers of radio waves, flickers of light, subtle patterns that drift across the darkness. What comes to their ears is not music, not words, but faint signals stretched by time and distance. They turn silence into information, into meaning, into glimpses of what lies beyond. You pause and reflect on the nature of this listening. It is not the impatient listening of daily life, where you wait for an answer or a reply. It is patient listening, listening that stretches across years, even lifetimes. To listen to the void is to let time expand, to accept that responses may come slowly, faintly, or perhaps not at all, and yet the act itself carries wonder. To listen is to admit that there may be something to hear. Every time a telescope scans the sky, it is a declaration of curiosity. It is the belief that silence might not be final, that it may hold secrets waiting to be uncovered. In this way, the void becomes less of an emptiness and more of a canvas for possibility. You imagine sound where there is none. Space does not carry the vibrations you know as sound. Air is absent. Waves cannot travel as they do on Earth. But signals travel differently. Light, radio, particles, forms of communication that do not need air, that do not need ears, only instruments too. Catch and interpret them. And so, listening to the void means listening in new ways, opening your awareness to forms of speech that are not familiar. Every star speaks, though not with words. It shines, it pulses, it flickers. Some stars release bursts of energy like steady heartbeats, others flare unpredictably. Neutron stars spin, emitting beams of radio waves that sweep across space like cosmic lighthouses. Quasars roar with power, their voices amplified across billions of years. All of them speak, but their voices are stretched thin by time and distance, softened into faint signals by the time they reach you. And yet, you hear them. Your telescopes turn those whispers into data, into graphs and patterns. With patience, with attention, you begin to understand. The universe, in its vastness, is never silent. It only seems so until you learn how to listen. There is poetry in this thought. When you listen to silence on Earth, you may hear the subtle background of your own body, the beat of your heart, the rhythm of your breath. In the same way, when you listen to cosmic silence, you hear the background of the universe itself, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, the radiation that fills every corner of space, the quiet hum of creation still echoing. Silence, then, is not absence, but presence, too faint for casual hearing. Astronomers have long wondered whether anything else might break that silence. They listen not only for stars and galaxies, but for signals that might come from intelligence, from beings like yourself, somewhere else, sending whispers into the void. The search is ongoing. stretching across decades, filled with patience and hope. Each faint signal is examined, studied, and compared. Most are explained as natural, as pulsars, as interference, as echoes of ordinary processes. But still, the search continues. For listening is not only about answers, but about the act itself, the quiet hope that you are not alone. You let your thoughts soften into that possibility. If a signal came, if something intentional broke through the silence, what would it mean? Perhaps the first words would be no more than a simple rhythm, a steady pulse, saying only, "We are here," and perhaps that would be enough. In a universe so vast, the faintest sign of another listener would transform silence into connection. But even without such a signal, listening has meaning. It teaches patience. It teaches humility. It reminds you that the universe moves at a scale beyond your own urgency. To wait years, decades, centuries for a whisper is not wasted. It is a way of aligning yourself with the rhythm of the cosmos, which does not hurry, which does not explain, which only continues. You think about how listening changes the listener. When you listen to silence, you become quieter inside yourself. You let distractions settle. You allow stillness to enter. In the same way, astronomers listening to the universe grow still, attentive, open to the faintest traces. To listen outward is also to listen inward, to discover patience within your own thoughts. There is also wonder in knowing what you cannot hear. Some signals are too faint, some too far. Some may pass unnoticed, lost in the background. The void may be filled with messages you are not yet able to catch. But rather than discouraging you, this thought deepens your awe. It reminds you that there is always more beyond your reach, always mysteries waiting, always signals just beyond your ability to hear, and so listening becomes endless. There is no final word, no closing sound. The act continues, generation after generation, telescope after telescope, each one stretching a little farther, each one refining its ability to hear. The universe continues to whisper, and you continue to lean closer, to catch what you can. You rest on this image, a vast darkness, stars scattered across it, signals traveling invisibly, faint, delicate, unending. On Earth, a small receiver waits, scanning, listening, turning silence into knowledge. The scale is almost unbearable. The vastness of space, the minuteness of your instruments, and yet connection happens. Across light years, across billions of years, faint whispers arrive, and you hear them. This too is a kind of intimacy. To listen is to draw near, even to something unimaginably distant. To listen is to acknowledge that you share a universe, that you exist together within its silence. The void, once feared as emptiness, becomes instead a field of connection, where every faint signal is a thread tying you to the whole. You breathe slowly, letting this realization move through you. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness disguised. To listen is not to wait for what is missing, but to receive what is already there, too delicate for casual hearing. In this way, the act of listening becomes a meditation on patience, on wonder, on the hidden richness of the void. You do not need answers tonight. You only need to rest in the knowledge that listening itself is enough, that astronomers, scattered across the earth, continue to lean outward into the silence, not because they expect an answer at every moment, but because the silence itself is worth attending to, because in every faint whisper the universe is speaking. Answers are never final. Each discovery opens more doors than it closes. and each door leads to another hallway of questions. You learn, but the learning does not end, it expands. In this way, the cosmos teaches you humility. No matter how far you reach, you remain surrounded by mysteries that stretch farther still. ʻOumuamua passed by, and you measured its speed, its path, its odd reflections of light. You tried to classify it: asteroid, comet, fragment, yet none of the familiar names seemed to fit. It resisted the neatness of categories, as if reminding you that human words cannot always contain cosmic realities. Its silence gave no explanation. And so you were left with questions. Then came 3, IATLAS, another visitor from the deep. Its presence confirmed that ʻOumuamua was not alone, not unique, not a singular accident. Yet even that confirmation deepened the mystery. If there are 2, then surely there are more. If there are more, then how often do they come? How long have they been passing, unnoticed, through your skies? You ask, why now? Why here? Is the appearance of such travelers rare, or have you simply begun to notice what was always there? Were earlier generations blind to such wanderers? Or do you live in a moment when the universe has chosen to reveal more of itself? You cannot know, not fully. You can only hold the question gently, like a fragile stone resting in your palm. Uncertainty, once troubling, becomes a form of comfort. It reminds you that you are still learning, still growing, still part of an unfinished story. Certainty may bring closure, but closure also ends curiosity. To rest in uncertainty is to remain open, awake to new possibilities, alive to wonder. You reflect on the possible origins of these interstellar visitors. Were they fragments from shattered worlds, broken loose in the violence of young solar systems? Were they icy remnants flung outward by gravity's rough hand? Or could they be something stranger, formations of matter not yet understood, objects shaped in ways your theories do not yet imagine? Each possibility opens new pathways of thought, and each pathway ends not in answers, but in deeper questions, and so you drift. You drift on the tide of not knowing, as if floating on a cosmic sea. Each question is a wave lifting you gently, carrying you into another rhythm. Rather than fearing this uncertainty, you will let it cradle you. You realize that the act of asking is itself part of the wonder, part of the endless dialogue between your small world and the immensity beyond it. Astronomers sometimes dream of contact, of receiving a signal, of finding proof that a traveler like ʻOumuamua is not only natural, but intentional. Yet intention is difficult to measure, nearly impossible to prove. A rock may tumble in ways that appear deliberate. A fragment may spin in ways that seem designed. But appearance is not truth, and truth remains veiled in silence. So you return to the question, could they be something more? Perhaps, but perhaps not. And in that perhaps lies a kind of peace. For if all mysteries were solved, the universe would lose its depth. It is the unknown that keeps you looking upward, the uncertainty that keeps you listening for whispers. The unanswered is not a flaw in your knowledge, but the very thing that sustains your curiosity. You pause and let your breath slow. The unanswered is like the night sky itself, filled with light, but also with darkness. The stars guide you, but the spaces between them leave room for imagination. Without unanswered questions, your wonder would collapse into finality. With them, your wonder stretches endlessly. You think again of timing. The Earth is billions of years old. Your species has watched the skies for only a fraction of that time. And only in the last century have your instruments become sharp enough to notice faint interstellar visitors passing through. How many others crossed unnoticed? How many others will come after you? The timing feels personal, but perhaps it is only coincidence. Or perhaps coincidence itself is part of the universe's quiet design. You realize that not every question needs resolution. Some are meant to remain open, to linger like the afterglow of a sunset, painting the edges of your thoughts without closing them. This is the gift of unanswered mysteries. They remind you to dwell in the present, to rest in the beauty of not knowing, to find serenity in the gentle tides of wonder. Science, at its heart, is not about answers, but about questions. Each answer is temporary, each explanation a bridge to the next unknown. To practice science is to walk that bridge endlessly, never arriving at final ground, but always moving forward. This endlessness is not failure, it is vitality. It is the heartbeat of curiosity, the rhythm that keeps your mind alive. The cosmos holds far more than you can ever measure. Galaxies collide, stars are born, planets crumble, fragments drift. You capture only glimpses, and those glimpses are wrapped in layers of uncertainty. You can map a trajectory, but you cannot map the full history of every fragment. You can measure speed, but you cannot trace every beginning. The unanswered remains, stretching behind every calculation like shadow behind light. Yet shadow is not absence. Shadow is what gives light its shape, what makes contrast possible, what allows you to see. In the same way, unanswered questions give meaning to the answers you do hold. They frame your knowledge, remind you of its limits, and encourage you to keep seeking. And so, you let the questions rest beside you. You do not demand resolution tonight. You allow them to remain as they are, soft, open, infinite. They will be there tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. They will not vanish with the setting of the sun, nor with the passing of these travelers. They are as much a part of the cosmos as the stars themselves. The mysteries become companions, not adversaries, not obstacles, but gentle presences accompanying you on your journey. They remind you that you are small, but also that you are capable of wonder. They remind you that your mind, though limited, can reach beyond its limits simply by asking, and in that reaching, you grow. You begin to see uncertainty not as emptiness, but as fullness. Fullness of possibility, fullness of imagination, fullness of the unknown. The unanswered is an invitation, not a void. It calls you deeper, urging you to listen, to observe, to remain awake to what might come. In the quiet of your thoughts, you find balance. You rest between what is known and what is unknown, letting both exist together without conflict. Certainty offers grounding, mystery offers flight. Between the two, you drift gently, carried by tides older than yourself, tides that will continue long after you are gone. The unanswered becomes the lullaby. Each question rocks you like waves against a shore. Each possibility whispers like wind across a field. You do not need to decide which answer is true. You only need to listen, to feel the rhythm of curiosity moving through you. And so, you let yourself be carried by mysteries that have no resolution, carried by questions that remain open, carried by the soft tide of wonder that asks nothing of you but attention. You drift deeper into stillness, deeper into quiet, deeper into the gentle rocking of uncertainty. There comes a moment when curiosity itself begins to soften. The sharp edge of questioning grows round, like a stone smoothed by water. You feel the vastness still, but it no longer presses on you with weight. Instead, it rests gently, like a hand on your shoulder, reminding you that you are held within something larger than yourself. You think of the travelers once more. ʻOumuamua the first, swift and silent. 3-1, ATLAS, another echo of that mystery. They move without pause, without destination, carried by momentum older than your world. Their journeys are endless, their direction unknowable. Yet, as you imagine them drifting, you begin to sense that their movement is not separate from your own. For you too are traveling. Even now, as you lie still, your planet turns beneath you. It spins you eastward into night and onward into day. It circles the sun, carrying you around a star whose warmth sustains your every breath. That star itself drifts in the spiral of the Milky Way, and the galaxy itself sails through an even greater sea. You never rest, not truly. Your body may grow quiet, your eyes may close, but you are always in motion. And so, when you think of ʻOumuamua, when you think of 3I ATLAS, you no longer imagine them as strangers passing by. You see them as fellow travelers, companions on a journey you share. Their paths cut across yours for only a brief moment, but that moment is enough to remind you all things move together, all things drift within the same endless current. You let that thought deepen. Every heartbeat you feel is part of this motion. Every breath you take joins the rhythm of cosmic drift. Sleep is not an escape from this motion, but another way of moving, not outward, but inward. As your mind grows softer, it turns from questions to silence, from effort to surrender. The stars above you, though distant, become a kind of lullaby. Their light has traveled for thousands, sometimes millions of years, just to reach your eyes. Each photon that touches you is an ancient messenger, carrying the memory of a star's fire across unimaginable distances. To look at starlight is to touch the past, to feel the echo of something long gone yet still shining. That too reminds you of your place, not separate but within, not fleeting but part of an endless chain of time. As you drift towards sleep, you realize the cosmos does not ask you to solve it. It does not demand that you answer every question before you rest. It only asks that you listen, that you notice, that you let wonder linger. Your mind may be filled with mysteries, but your body is allowed to let go. Sleep welcomes you not because the questions have ended, but because you have learned to let them rest beside you. You imagine the travelers now, not as puzzles to decode, but as companions who drift with you into night. ʻOumuamua, slender and strange, moving faster than planets. 3-1, ATLAS, luminous and fragile, dissolving even as it was seen. Their stories are unfinished, their truths unknown. Yet in their company you feel a kind of stillness, as though their endless motion has folded into your own. The night becomes a sea. You float in it without effort. Questions rise and fall like waves, but you do not need to follow them. You only need to be carried. The tide of the universe does not ask you to swim. It holds you, it rocks you, it guides you toward rest. Sleep itself feels like a form of orbit. You circle gently around silence, dipping closer, then drifting away, then returning again. The rhythm of your breathing becomes the rhythm of the stars, slow, steady, unbroken. Every exhale is a release, every inhale an arrival. You are not falling into sleep. You are gliding toward it, as softly as starlight traveling across the void. And here, in this quiet, you notice something tender. The same universe that fills you with questions also gives you the gift of rest. The same vastness that overwhelms You, with mystery, also soothes you with silence. Wonder and sleep are not opposites, they are companions. Both ask you to surrender, to allow, to trust. As your mind grows quieter, the boundaries blur. You are not entirely awake, not entirely asleep. You are somewhere in between, drifting like the travelers you have been thinking of. They glide across space, you glide across thought. Their journey is endless. Your journey tonight is simply toward rest. But both journeys belong to the same current. Both are motions within the same sea. You begin to sense that sleep itself is a cosmic act. To close your eyes is to return to the darkness out of which you came, the darkness that cradled every star before it was born. To dream is to join the drifting fragments, to wander among galaxies without needing a ship, without needing a path. Your resting mind becomes another traveler, carried where it will, exploring without weight. Without end, the questions remain. They always will. What are these travelers? How many more will come? What stories do they carry in their silent forms? You do not have the answers, but that no longer troubles you. The unanswered becomes like background music, a soft hum that does not disturb but soothes. It is the gentle sound of curiosity at rest, the promise that tomorrow will always hold more to wonder about. And now, the questions begin to dissolve. Not because they are unimportant, but because you have allowed them to float beyond you, like leaves on a stream. You do not cling, you let them move. You trust that they will be there when you return. But for now, you are free. Free to drift, free to rest, free to join the quiet rhythm of the night. Sleep gathers around you slowly, the way dusk gathers around the horizon. It does not come all at once. It slides in gently, like a tide rising inch by inch, until you no longer notice the difference between wakefulness and dreaming. You are simply floating, carried into a deeper silence. And so you fall asleep with the stars. Not apart from them, not beneath them, but with them. Your rest is part of their glow. Your dreams are part of their drift. The universe does not stop. When you close your eyes, it continues, and you continue with it. You are woven into its fabric, as inseparable as a spark from the fire that made it. This is the final surrender, not to answers, but to rest, not to knowing, but to being. You no longer chase the travelers, no longer search for certainty. You let them go, and in letting go, you join them. You are not awake, not watching, not questioning. You are drifting, endlessly, within the same tide that carries them. And in that drifting, you find peace, and somewhere beyond thought, beyond wakefulness, beyond the pull of questions, you sense that sleep is not an ending, but another kind of journey, one that continues into the quiet, where tomorrow's mysteries will be waiting. There is a silence in the universe that does not end. It stretches across you like a soft blanket, the kind of quiet that hums with possibility. For most of human history, this silence seemed unbroken. The stars shone in their places, steady and patient, as though they had always been there and always would. You could look upward, night after night, and believe the sky was a familiar ceiling, dependable and still. But the truth is different. The sky is not still at all. It is alive with motion so vast and slow you do not always feel it. Stars drift, like grains of pollen on invisible winds. Clouds of gas fold and spread. Entire galaxies swirl as though stirred by unseen hands. And within this sea of movement, sometimes, there are travelers small and quiet who do not belong to your system, who come from somewhere else, carrying with them the echo of another world. ʻOumuamua was one of these, the first that you saw, the first that entered human awareness not as a prediction or a theory, but as a real body gliding across the dark. Its name, from Hawaiian, means a messenger that reaches out from the distant past, and that is what it was. A message not spoken in words, but in presence. A reminder that the universe is not closed, not sealed, but open, with pathways between. Stars, you feel the strangeness of this. For centuries, comets have brushed across your skies. Asteroids have been mapped and tracked, their orbits known, their stories told. But every one of them belonged here. They were children of the same sun that warms your skin, fragments of the same vast family of planets and moons and dust. ʻOumuamua was different. It was not born in this light. It was not a child of your sun. When astronomers first noticed it in October of 2017, it had already passed by Earth. Already it was leaving, moving faster than any of your spacecraft could. Hope to follow. Its path was unmistakable. Not a looping orbit like the comets. Not a returning arc like the asteroids. Its speed carried it on a trajectory that would never bend back. It was here only once. A brief crossing, then gone. You imagine this sand object wandering for millions, perhaps billions, of years through the spaces between stars. Cold, untouched, its surface worn smooth by cosmic rays, scarred by tiny impacts with dust. It did not belong to you. It did not even notice you. And yet, for a flicker of time, you noticed it. It was small, perhaps only a few hundred meters in length. Not a giant by cosmic standards, and yet its size did not matter. Its meaning was in its strangeness. Its shape appeared elongated, far, longer than wide, like a shard of something once whole. No comet or asteroid you had seen looked quite like it, and the way it spun tumbling, flashing light as it turned made it more mysterious still. For days, scientists tried to understand it. Was it icy like a comet? Was it rocky like an asteroid? But it showed no tail, no streaming plume of gas. At least, not in the way you expected. Instead, its brightness shifted in ways that suggested something more complex, something not is. Named Dot, you begin to see why it stirred so much wonder. This was not just a rock. It was the first physical evidence that your solar system is not isolated, that other systems throw out debris just as yours does, and that those fragments can travel across light years until by chance they pass before your eyes, and you reflect on how rare that chance is. Your sky is vast. The distances between stars are so great that even a countless scattering of such fragments would pass mostly unseen. The fact that you saw ʻOumuamua at all is like catching a feather drifting across a desert plain, a single clue that tells of winds blowing far beyond your horizon. The name given to it, ʻOumuamua, carries weight, a messenger, but what kind of message? It did not speak. It did not slow. It gave no explanation of itself. The message was only this: you are not alone in the flow of matter between stars. There are others, unseen, moving even now. This thought is both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because it tells you that the universe is connected, that the building blocks of one solar system may someday brush the edges of another. Unsettling because it reminds you that your system is open, vulnerable, visited by things that do not announce themselves until they are already here, already passing. And yet, most of all, it is humbling. For so long, humans have looked upward, imagining the sky as theirs to study, theirs to claim. But ʻOumuamua reminds you that the universe is not yours. You are part of it, not its center. These visitors do not ask your permission. They travel on paths carved by physics alone, and you, by chance, are allowed to glimpse them. As you lie back in thought, you let the scale settle over you. ʻOumuamua came from beyond, but beyond is a word that hardly captures the distance. The nearest star system, Proxima Centauri, is more than 4 light-years away, a distance so great that even at the fastest speed your technology has ever achieved, a spacecraft would take tens of thousands of years to arrive. And ʻOumuamua may not have come from the nearest star at all. It may have traveled hundreds of light-years, slipping quietly through the interstellar night until it found itself passing your sun. You hold this thought gently. A rock, yes, but also a witness. A witness to places you will never see 2 times. Long before your species awoke. 2 spaces between stars where darkness reigns almost unbroken. And so you drift, imagining what it has seen. Stars being born, collapsing, dying. Clouds of dust gathering into worlds. Explosions that lit up entire galaxies. Silent passages through emptiness where not a single photon reached it for years at a time. Its journey becomes a mirror for your own. You too are a traveler, though you do not always feel it. Your Earth spins, carrying you through night and day. Your planet orbits the sun, drifting through the spiral arm of the galaxy. And your galaxy itself is moving, sliding through the cosmic web. You are never still, you are always in motion. ʻOumuamua is only a reminder of what you already are. A participant in the endless journey of matter across the universe. And yet, you long for more. You wonder what secrets it held in its composition, in its history. Could it have been part of a shattered world, a fragment of a comet ejected from a newborn system? Was it once warm with light from another sun, circling for millions of years before being flung away? You cannot know. You will likely never know. It came too quickly, too briefly, and now it is gone. Beyond the reach of your instruments, lost to the greater night. But even in its absence, it leaves a trace in your thoughts. A possibility, a question. If one visitor has come, might there be more? And if there are more, how many have already passed unseen, before you had the eyes to notice? The silence stretches again. The stars return to stillness. But something has shifted in your perception. You now understand that the stillness is an illusion. The dark is alive with motion. And within that motion are stories you have only begun to hear. ʻOumuamua was the first word in a new language. Not a sentence, not even a phrase. Just a syllable, offered quietly, without explanation. A syllable you will spend years trying to interpret. And as you let this thought settle into you, sleep begins to draw near. The mystery does not disturb you, it soothes you. Because mystery is not emptiness, it is potential. It is the feeling of being surrounded by doors you cannot yet open, but that you know are there. You close your eyes and drift with ʻOumuamua in your imagination, following it out into the deeper dark, watching as it grows smaller and smaller against the stars. It carries with it the calm reminder that there is more beyond what you see, more beyond what you can measure, and perhaps, someday, another traveler will come, whispering a second word in the language of the stars. There is something quietly unsettling about a shape that refuses to conform. You are accustomed to roundness in the heavens. Planets are spheres, pulled into wholeness by gravity's patient hand. Moons to curve into completeness. Even comets, though rough and jagged, still tend toward roundness, softened by time and melted by sunlight, means you must accept incompleteness. The faster it moves, the less it reveals. It is like hearing only the first word of a sentence before it vanishes into silence. And yet, even that word carries weight. ʻOumuamua told you that other systems throw stones across the cosmic ocean. Its velocity marked it as interstellar, the first confirmed of its kind. Without that speed, you might never have recognized its origin. Without that whisper of haste, you might have mistaken it for a comet. Just another child of your sun. You dwell on the paradox. Speed is both revelation and concealment. It reveals where it came from, not here. It conceals what it is, leaving before you can know. In the stillness of your own body, you realize that speed is relative. You sit quietly, yet you are hurtling around the sun at nearly 30 kilometers per second. You do not feel it. Motion in space is smooth, free of air, free of drag. Speed is invisible until measured against something else. And so, when ʻOumuamua raced by, its swiftness was only visible because you compared it to your own. It was not speed alone that marked it, but speed beyond yours. This makes you wonder how many other travelers have come before, slower, less obvious, blending into the dance of comets and asteroids, passing unnoticed. ʻOumuamua stood out because it was fast enough to escape, fast enough to be strange. But perhaps others have come quietly, moving at speeds you mistook for local. Speed shapes destiny. For the planets, speed is what balances gravity. Move too slowly, and you fall inward. Move too quickly, and you fly away. Earth's speed keeps. It's steady, forever circling without collapse, forever bound. ʻOumuamua's speed placed it outside that balance. It was destined not to circle, but to pass, and still, you sensed that its flight was not waste. Even in its haste, it changed you. It expanded the horizon of your thought. Before, interstellar objects were theory, probability, speculation. After, they were real. Speed made that real. Speed brought the proof. You reflect on how speed, in your own life, often shapes perception. A rushing moment feels fleeting, intangible, leaving you only memory. A slower moment lingers, lest you touch it. ʻOumuamua was a rushing moment, a cosmic flash, too quick to hold. And yet, sometimes the briefest encounters change you the most. There is also a gentleness in speed when you shift perspective. In the void of space, even great velocity is stillness. There is no wind, no pressure, no sound. ʻOumuamua's rushing was silent, smooth, without turbulence. Speed, there, is not violence, but flow. It is a river without banks, endless and calm, carrying fragments from star to star. You let yourself rest in that thought. Speed as river. Every object is carried, not by choice, but by the unfolding of forces. Just as water drops flow toward the sea, just as air currents drift toward balance, so too do stones and shards flow across galaxies. Speed is not defiance. It is simply the shape of motion through the infinite. The visitor's pace also reminds you of time. Fast-moving bodies cross your sky quickly, but their journeys are measured in millions of years. What feels brief to you may be vast in its own frame. Perhaps ʻOumuamua has been moving like this since before your Earth was born, carrying its speed across epochs, across civilizations unimagined. Its quick passing here is only one heartbeat in a story longer than human history itself. You close your eyes and sense the proportion. What is fast to you may be slow to the cosmos. What is fleeting to you may be eternal to the stars. Speed is perspective, and perspective is humility. And so you let the whisper of speed become a meditation. It is not only about a fragment of rock passing your sun. It is about the nature of transience, about how things enter your life quickly, leave quickly, and yet still matter. It is about how freedom requires velocity, about how not everything is meant to stay. ʻOumuamua's speed is the reason it was seen at all, and it is also the reason it is gone forever. This dual truth is the essence of its gift. As you drift toward rest, you are left with the echo of its passing. The briefness of encounter becomes its own kind of beauty. The speed does not diminish its meaning, it deepens it. You know it will never return, but you also know it is not alone. Somewhere, now, other travelers are moving, other whispers of speed are crossing the galaxy, and one day another will pass through your sky. Dust is the smallest form of memory. It is made of fragments, leftovers of creation, pieces so fine they drift like whispers. And yet, within each grain lies a story, the cooling of a star, the shattering of a rock, the collapse of a cloud. Dust is ancient. Dust is everywhere. Dust is the soft handwriting of the cosmos, scattered across light years. You live surrounded by it. On Earth, dust gathers in the corners of rooms, specks from soil, from skin, from the quiet breakdown of matter. In space, dust is older, finer, slower. It floats in the interstellar medium, filling the emptiness between stars with unseen presence. Every particle is smaller than a thought, and yet together they are immense, forming rivers and seas of drifting. Matter, ʻOumuamua carried this dust upon its surface. Not the dust of your world, not the dust of your sun, but the dust of other suns. Grains from collisions that took place light years away. Flecks shed from icy comets circling other stars. Soot from explosions where massive suns died in fire. Over millions of years, these particles pressed against its skin, scratching, polishing, layering its surface with the record of its travels. You let your thoughts rest on this image, a shard moving through darkness, touched endlessly by invisible grains. No storm, no gust, no breeze, just the slow meeting of fragment with fragment. The smallest collisions stretched over ages. Each mark left behind is a history written in silence. And here you realize the surface of ʻOumuamua is a page. Every crater, every pit, every polish is a letter, a syllable in the language of dust. Scientists cannot yet read this page directly. They see only the faint glimmers of reflected light. But you can imagine it, a surface scarred with impacts, perhaps frosted with carbon-rich soot, perhaps shining in places where collisions smoothed it clean. This dust is not meaningless. It carries elements forged in stars. Carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, all created in stellar hearts, all dispersed into space when suns grew unstable and released their matter back into the void. The dust that coats ʻOumuamua once belonged. Two stars that lived and died before your Earth was born. To touch it would be to touch the history of the galaxy itself. You reflect on the patience of such a process. On Earth, erosion is swift. Winds carve cliffs, rivers, smooth stones, glaciers, grind mountains. In space, the smoothing is gentler, almost imperceptible. A single grain of dust might collide once in decades, but over millions of years, billions of collisions add up. Surfaces lose their sharpness, edges fade. What was once jagged becomes round. Time, in space, does not hurry. It shapes with endless calm. ʻOumuamua may have been battered by larger encounters, too. Not only the soft tap of dust, but the strikes of pebbles, the scars of ancient impacts. Each mark adds a new layer of memory, each fracture another story. Its skin becomes a tapestry of forgotten suns, of quiet catastrophes, of endless travel. And yet, dust is not only destructive, it is also creative. From clouds of dust, stars are born. Dust gathers under gravity's pull, collapsing into warmth, igniting fusion, giving light to new systems. Dust forms planets, moons, and comets. Dust is the seed from which entire worlds emerge. So when you think of ʻOumuamua carrying dust upon its body, you think not only of scars, but of seeds. Perhaps fragments of other worlds cling to it still. Perhaps organic molecules, drifting, unnoticed, ride along. Perhaps, across the galaxy, such shards are the couriers of chemistry, carrying the building blocks of life from star to star. You are reminded of panspermia, the idea that life's ingredients may spread across the cosmos, on rocks and dust. Whether or not life itself travels, you know molecules can. You know amino acids, the precursors of proteins, have been found on meteorites. You know carbon compounds drift through interstellar clouds. So perhaps ʻOumuamua carried with it not only dust, but possibility. The dust of other suns may also be the dust of future beginnings. There is humility in this thought, that what you sweep from your shelves at home, what you wipe from your skin each day. But here is where the mystery deepens. ʻOumuamua did not follow the path you expected. Its curve was not entirely explained by the sun's gravity. After it passed the star, it accelerated slightly, as though some additional hand had given it a push, not enough to declare it impossible, but enough to make you pause, to wonder. This is not how a comet usually behaves. When comets are warmed by the sun, their ices vaporize, streaming out as gas. That outgassing acts like a tiny rocket, pushing the comet in ways that gravity alone cannot explain. But ʻOumuamua showed no visible tail, no glowing comma, no plume of dust. Its acceleration came without the usual signs, and so you are left with paradox. Gravity explains much, but not all. The sun pulls, yes, the curve is real, and yet something else nudged it, something subtle and invisible. Perhaps it was outgassing too faint to see. Perhaps it was another process, an unfamiliar way in which interstellar fragments lose mass. Or perhaps it was something entirely unknown. You were reminded of how gravity itself was once a mystery. For centuries, people watched apples fall and moons turn, but did not know why. They saw the effects, but not the thread connecting them. Gravity was invisible until it was named. Even now, you do not fully understand it. You know it is linked to mass, to the curvature of spacetime, to the way matter bends the very fabric in which it sits. But the essence of it remains elusive. It is as if the universe hums a note you cannot hear directly, yet its vibration moves everything around. ʻOumuamua's path, becomes a meditation on this. A fragment of matter, moving freely through the galaxy, suddenly bends as it enters your star's field. It arcs, it wobbles, it speeds up in a way not fully explained. For a brief time, you glimpse how even the smallest visitor cannot escape. Connection. Nothing in the universe is untouched by forces greater than itself. You rest with the idea that gravity is not confinement, but relationship. Planets orbit not because they are chained, but because they are in dialogue with the sun's pull. The Earth's oceans rise and fall because they are listening to the moon's tug. Even you, sitting still, are engaged in quiet conversation with the Earth beneath you, each atom held in place by this silent pull. And so, ʻOumuamua was in dialogue, too, not speaking in words, but in motion, its path bent in acknowledgement of the sun, its acceleration whispered of forces still hidden. It came and went, leaving behind not answers, but questions. You reflect on how gravity shapes not only objects, but also time. In regions of great mass, like black holes, time itself slows. Light bends, paths twist in ways unimaginable. The same fabric that guides ʻOumuamua past your sun is the fabric that curves galaxies, that binds clusters of stars together, that anchors the very architecture of the cosmos. Gravity is the quiet architect, designing not with bricks or beams, but with curvature and flow. And yet, for all its universality, it is the most delicate of forces, weaker than magnetism, weaker than the nuclear bonds that hold atoms together. Gravity still dominates because it never cancels, never fades away. It accumulates, every particle pulling on every other particle, endlessly, across infinite distances. It is not strength that makes gravity sovereign, but persistence. You think of persistence in your own life, the soft habits, repeated daily, that shape your days more than single grand events. The way breath after breath sustains you. Gravity is like that. Gentle, constant, but cumulative, weaving together the structure of all things. ʻOumuamua's brief dance through your system is only one moment in this vast tapestry. Its path is a thread woven by the sun, its acceleration a knot not yet untangled. To follow it is to glimpse the interplay of known and unknown, the balance between force and freedom. Because here is the paradox. Gravity binds, yet it also frees. By curving around the sun, ʻOumuamua gains speed, using the very pull of the star to fling itself outward, faster than before. This is the slingshot effect, the way spacecraft to borrow energy from planets, turning gravity into a gift of momentum. What looks like confinement becomes liberation. What looks like tether becomes launch. This duality is everywhere. The Earth is bound to the sun, yet this binding gives you seasons, warmth, stability. The moon is bound to Earth, yet this tether gives you tides, rhythms of water that sustain life. ʻOumuamua was bent by gravity, yet in that bending it was freed to continue on, never to return. And so you reflect. Perhaps freedom and connection are not opposites. Perhaps they are intertwined, each making the other possible. To be guided does not mean to be trapped. To be pulled does not mean to be owned. Gravity's silent pull becomes a meditation on your own life, too. You are not an isolated fragment. You are shaped by invisible connections to family, to memory, to the earth beneath you, to the sun that warms you. These pulls do not confine you. They guide you, shaping your path in ways you do not always see. As sleep begins to approach, you rest in this thought, that the universe is a cradle of unseen forces, that every motion is shaped by relationships, that even a traveler from beyond the stars is not alone in its journey. And yet, as with all mysteries, questions remain. What gave ʻOumuamua that extra push? What secret process nudged it beyond gravity's pull? Was it faint gases, too subtle for your eyes, or something entirely new, a mechanism you have yet to discover? The path fades into darkness. The visitor continues outward, and you are left, quietly, with both the comfort of what you know and the wonder of what you do not. Speed is a kind of silence. You do not hear it. You only feel the consequence, the blur, the passing, the impossibility of holding on. In the deep quiet of space, speed is not a roar but a whisper, measured in the way paths curve and in how quickly something slips beyond sight. ʻOumuamua carried such a whisper. It arrived already fast, too fast for comfort, too fast for permanence. Most objects bound to the sun travel at familiar paces. Planets circle with steadiness. Comets dive and retreat, but always return in cycles. Even asteroids, though restless, are still tethered to the gravity of your star. But ʻOumuamua's speed was different. It raced at more than 87 kilometers per second as it passed through the solar system. Faster than Earth, faster than Jupiter, faster even than the icy comets that fall inward from the far edges of your sun's domain. That speed was not something gained here. It was something it carried with it long before you saw it. And speed, in the language of space, is history. To move so fast is to carry a memory of distant journeys. Perhaps it was flung outward by young stars' violence, hurled into interstellar space by the pull and push of giant planets. Perhaps it has been accelerating and decelerating for millions of years, pulled close to stars and then released again, like a stone bouncing across a surface too vast for you to imagine. Its present pace is the sum of all its past encounters. You reflect on how speed defines belonging. If an object travels below a certain threshold, gravity can hold it, curve it back, bring it home again. This is why comets return, why asteroids remain. But when something moves faster than escape allows, it cannot be bound. It does not belong. ʻOumuamua was above that threshold. It was unbound, a wanderer not claimed by the sun. Its speed declared its freedom. And yet, freedom is not aimless. Every fast traveler still follows a path carved by physics. Its motion is precise, a trajectory written in numbers and curves. Nothing in its flight is random. And so, even in its haste, it still speaks. It tells you, I am not of here. I am passing through. I will not return. There is something both comforting and bittersweet in this. Comforting because its very speed proves the reality of interstellar exchange. You are not isolated. Other systems send fragments outward, and sometimes those fragments cross your sky. Bittersweet because you will never know it fully. Its speed denies you intimacy. It leaves almost as soon as you notice it, slipping into the dark before you. Can ask all your questions. Speed, then, becomes absence. You are left with echoes, with traces measured in brief weeks of observation. Its pace, its pace. So you let the arrival of 3 IATLAS become part of your own quiet rhythm of thought. You imagine your system as a room with a door. For a long time, you thought the door was closed. Then, slowly, one by one, visitors arrived. The door, it turns out, was never locked. It was always open. You simply had not noticed before. And this brings you to another question. If 3 have been seen in so short a span, how many more have passed unseen? How many fragments have drifted through your skies? Too small or faint to notice. How many more will come, their presence too brief for your instruments? But still real, still part of the great circulation of matter across the galaxy. The answer is unknowable, and yet the wondering itself is enough. The wondering connects you to the truth of abundance, to the idea that the galaxy is not still but restless, not closed but open. It connects you to the idea that your system is part of a greater flow, always touched, always visited, always in motion with the rest. You rest in that thought, letting it soften into calm. 3-1 ATLAS is gone now, but its arrival has expanded your awareness. You no longer see your system as private, but as connected. You no longer think of visitors as rare, but as inevitable. And in that inevitability lies comfort. The universe will continue to send reminders. You will not be left alone. Silence is never truly empty. Even when it seems bare, even when it feels like nothing stirs, silence holds rhythm. It has a texture, a pulse beneath the surface, in the spaces between stars, where no sound travels and no breath moves. There is still the rhythm of arrival and departure, of fragments drifting, of chance meetings and quiet passages unseen. When you first heard of ʻOumuamua, you could imagine it as a solitary event, a rare flicker in the dark. But with the arrivals that followed Borisov and later 3 IATL, as the silence begins to look different, it no longer feels like accident. It begins to feel like pattern. 2 may be coincidence, 3 may be confirmation, and from there, your thoughts drift into probability. If you have seen 3 in only a handful of years, how many more must exist? How many have already passed without detection, too faint, too quick, too ordinary in appearance to be noticed? You rest in this question. How often do the stars send their fragments across your path? The universe is vast, and randomness is rarely so kind as to show its hand so quickly. To glimpse 3 so close together suggests abundance. It suggests that your system is not exempt from visitations. It suggests the silence between stars is not void, but threaded with countless paths you have not yet traced. And you realize, absence of sight is not absence of presence. The night sky looks still, yet Earth itself moves at great speed around the sun. Stars look fixed, yet they drift through the galaxy in slow migrations. The silence of interstellar space feels like emptiness, yet it carries dust, radiation, and travelers unseen. What you do not perceive is not what does not exist. So you begin to listen differently. You ask, how many must there be? Scientists turn this question into numbers, into estimates based on chance and geometry. If 3 have been seen in just a few years, then there may be billions moving unseen across the galaxy. Each star may cast away fragments over its long life, ejecting comets, asteroids, and shards of shattered worlds into the greater dark. And over time, these fragments add up, forming rivers of wanderers, streams of debris crossing unseen through every system. You let yourself picture these rivers, not visible, not glowing, but flowing still, streams of icy shards, moving through silence, endless as wind, invisible but real. Your solar system is not separate from them, it is immersed in them. Occasionally one passes close enough to be glimpsed, and in those moments the pattern becomes visible. The silence is alive with possibility. Each faint visitor you do not see is still there, drifting, carrying scars and histories. They do not need your gaze to be real. They pass whether or not you notice, whether or not you measure. The universe does not depend on your perception. Your perception depends on it, and so patterns begin to emerge in your thought. You notice the timing. 3 travelers in short succession. You notice the variation. 1 elongated and strange. 1 comet-like and familiar. 1 a mixture of both. You notice the implication. Variety itself is pattern. Not one type of visitor, not one category, but many. each carrying different stories from different origins. You think of the night sky as a page, and each interstellar visitor as a letter. With 3 letters, you begin to imagine words. With many more, entire sentences might emerge, telling you stories of other systems, other histories. The language is not yet fluent, but the possibility of it fills the silence with meaning. Probability softens into wonder, for if so many wanderers exist, then the galaxy is not empty space between islands of stars. It is a web of exchange, a circulation of matter across light years, a system of sharing in which every star contributes to the whole. Your sun is not solitary. It is part of a network, trading fragments endlessly, and this sharing raises questions. If rocks and ice can travel between stars, what else might they carry? Could they transport organic molecules, seeds of chemistry, fragments of beginnings? Could interstellar space be not only a sea of stone, but also a pathway of possibility? Each silent visitor could be more than debris. It could be a courier of history, of potential futures. You dwell on this possibility until it quiets you. Not all patterns are mathematical. Some are felt. Some are intuited in the rhythm of recurrence. You have seen 3, and in those 3 you sense a much larger whole. You sense a galaxy alive not in spite of its silence, but within it. Patterns also exist in your own perception. The more you look, the more you find. The more you listen, the more you hear. Silence itself is not absence, but invitation. In the same way, interstellar visitors reveal themselves only when you are ready, when your instruments are tuned, when your attention is steady. They may have always been there. You simply did not yet notice. And so, probability is not only about counting, it is about awareness. The more open you are, the more patterns emerge. The more you trust the silence, the more it reveals itself as full. You close your eyes and let yourself drift into the thought that patterns are everywhere, even when hidden. The beating of your heart, the turning of earth, the rhythm of tides, the cycle of seasons, all are patterns in silence. You live within them without always noticing, and only when you pause do you hear their music. ʻOumuamua was a note. Borisov was another. 3-1, Atlas added harmony. Together, they suggest a larger song. A melody not yet complete, but already begun. The silence between notes is not emptiness. It is rhythm, holding the structure, carrying the meaning. You feel the same in the cosmos. Each absence, each long stretch of unseen sky may hold within it the structure of a much larger song. And each time a visitor is noticed, you hear another note, another phrase. Slowly, the silence becomes music. This is the gift of patterns. They transform chance into meaning. You do not yet know how many wanderers there are. You do not yet know how often they pass. But you know enough to trust that what feels rare may be common. What feels isolated may be connected. What feels silent may, in truth, be a chorus too, vast for you to hear all at once. You let that comfort surround you. The universe is not random chaos, nor is it rigid order. It is pattern woven with mystery, probability balanced with surprise. It offers you glimpses, enough to wonder, enough to rest in the knowledge that meaning exists even in silence. And still, the questions remain. How often do such visitors arrive? How many have passed before unnoticed? How many carry chemistry that could seed new worlds? How many will come in your lifetime, or in lifetimes yet to be? These questions rise like waves, gentle but endless, carrying you deeper into reflection. You do not need answers now. The questions themselves are lullabies. They rock you with their rhythm, softening the silence, reminding you that mystery itself is nourishing. The silence between stars is not emptiness. It is possibility. Your mind often reaches for categories. To name is to make sense. To place the unfamiliar into boxes that feel safe. In science, as in